Good afternoon. Happy Tuesday. That's what it is, right? Let me check. Yep, it's Tuesday. Welcome to the Fox 5 Live Zone. I'm your host, Guy Lambert. Thank you so much for joining us. Coming up on the show today, another win for President Trump. This after the Supreme Court rules in his favor to slash jobs at the Department of Education. Hey, we're talking weddings. In this case, Jeff Bezos' wedding costs $50 million. Plan on getting married? How much should your wedding cost? We'll speak with a wedding planner. And it's the extreme lengths that some single women are going through in order to find a man. Stick around for that one. Tony P is going to join us for our Tuesday Talkers right here on the Live Zone. But first, how about we talk weather, shall we? Tucker Barnes joining us right here on the LZ.
Well, you got Tony P on your show?
Uh-huh. He's a busy man today.
You're putting me on acting like, you know, I'm not the headline event here.
Well, when it comes to weather, no one does it better.
This is when you turn on the cage fights and, you know, there's like 27 fights. This is like the first one of the night right here. You know?
No, that's when I just came on. You're the second one.
Okay, so yeah, we're the early rounds here. Sometimes those are the best fights.
I agree. It gets down and dirty, you know?
Yeah, right?
You got something to fight for.
Well, we're going to get down and dirty right here with the weather. That was unpleasant last night, wasn't it?
Oh, my gosh. All that flooding up in Laurel.
Laurel, parts of Northern Virginia had flooding, and just some incredible numbers up in BWI, just north of Laurel, BWI Marshall. They had 1 inch of rain in 15 minutes.
Wow.
That is really coming down. Like sometimes, you know, in the fall months, and we're like, oh, it's going to rain all day, we'll get 1 inch of rain over the entire day.
Sure.
They got that in 15 minutes. That's why we had that kind of flooding yesterday. So the good news is, although we have no break from the humidity, steam bath, I do think we'll get a break from the heavy thunderstorm activity that we had late yesterday. So I can't promise we won't get 1 or 2 showers or a rumble of thunder this afternoon, but they'll be very widely scattered.
Okay.
Okay?
Not as bad as yesterday, though.
Not as bad as yesterday. I mean, not that it's going to feel any better than yesterday.
Got it.
It's still going to be in the upper 80s, and with all that water, with all the water vapor out there, the heat index is upper 90s later this afternoon, so take lots of water. All right, 81 degrees at midday hours, and you can see that is a lot. You see what's behind me there in the live shot?
Hey, that's Atlanta, right?
That's Atlanta.
Yeah, where the baseball game is at.
We got the game on Fox tonight, so make sure you tune in, and maybe our local players will make us realize.
How many Nationals play? 2?
2.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, Gore and Woods, right?
I think so. Okay.
Yeah. Obviously, don't quote us on that. But I think that's it. I mean, I watched Woods in the home run derby last night. It was good.
Okay.
Okay. Clouds out there at this hour, or a mostly cloudy midday. And again, no showers firing yet, but it's a very unstable atmosphere. Kind of like an old girlfriend of mine that would just erupt at me at any time.
Watch it now, Tucker. Don't ruffle any
feathers. I'm not naming names.
Okay.
But I'm just saying, it's kind of like that. You know, all of a sudden,
yeah,
they're mad at you for no reason.
Happens a lot.
I'd like to put Guy on the spot. I told you this was the early rounds of cage wrestling right here. All right? You see the good stuff for later. 89 this afternoon. Could be 1 or 2 slow-moving storms and a rumble of thunder out there, but it shouldn't be the repeat performance of yesterday. Big picture, however, Guy, it's going to be day after day of scattered late-day thunderstorms and a chance for rain and a lot of steamy heat around here right to the end of the week. So, yeah. It's July in D.C.
Okay. Well, it is what it is, and I'll take it quite honestly. I love the summertime. Good. Tucker Barnes with All Things Weather joining us right here on the Live Zone. Hey, guys, if you haven't already done so, make sure you download the Fox Local app. That way you can take that forecast with you any and everywhere you go. All right, guys, we start the show by taking you to the Mike Waltz hearing. President Donald Trump's former national security advisor is appearing before the Senate Foreign Relations Committee for a hearing on his nomination to be ambassador to the United Nations. Let's take a listen in.
Intentionally infiltrated that signal chain. You said that he was sucked in. You denied, deflected, and then you did something that to me really lacks integrity, is that you sought out to demean and degrade that very journalist in crass and, frankly, cruel ways that made him a target. That's not leadership. When you blame people that tell the truth, that's not leadership. When you can't say the words, I made a mistake, I could have done better, I learned valuable lessons from this experience. Instead, at a moment where our national security was clearly compromised, you denied, you deflected, and then you demeaned and degraded those people who objectively told the truth and criticized your actions. Smearing people, attacking folks, singling them out, just furthers, compounds what I think is disqualifying about you for this position. It also, to me, just shows profound cowardice. You should step up right now. I heard Senator Coons. I heard you being asked by Senator Kaine again and again to simply say, I was wrong. I made a mistake. I take responsibility for my actions. Unfortunately, what you're doing to me is perfectly in line with the way this administration as a whole has operated. I've never seen an administration that has made no mistakes, can't learn constructively from things they did wrong, has no sense of self-interrogation or integrity. And should they...
All right, yet again, Senator Cory Booker, in essence, chastising Mike Waltz, Trump's national security advisor, as the hearing continues on his nomination to become the ambassador to the United Nations. Well, the White House now celebrating another legal victory for the Trump administration in its bid to dismantle the Department of Education. The Supreme Court giving Trump the green light to lay off nearly 1,400 employees. Meanwhile, Mexico says it's walking toward a deal with the U.S. to avoid new tariffs. Joining us to discuss this and so much more is Mr. Arif Halaby, 870 AM The Answer and political strategist back here on the Live Zone. Good to see you, Arif. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Guy. Good morning. It's good to see you.
Let's start off with the big story of the day, and that is the U.S. Supreme Court allowing Trump to resume gutting the Department of Education. Although formally eliminating the department would require an act of Congress, the downsizing, Arif, is likely to be massive. What say you?
Yeah, look, the executive branch has always had the power over the executive branch. I mean, it's kind of, a shocker. Of course, Congress portions the money and appoints, the dollars appropriately. But look, President Trump has always been hindered in what he's trying to do, whether it's back in his first term or now, lawsuit central. So it's nice that these lawsuits are being settled quickly and whatever powers he's trying to exert are cleared out quickly and clarified for all of us. Look, 1,400 people are going to be laid off. This is pretty important, Guy. It's important to me with all my family and friends on both coasts. Baltimore School District, if you were to tell me the Department of Education staying in power would allow Baltimore School District to have more than 70% of their kids graduate at a reading level of elementary school, I would be all for it. But when you have layers of educational bureaucracy from the city, county, state, and now the federal government, it's only since, 1980 or so? It's an irrelevant organization. It's bloated. It's one of the smallest agencies. This is powerful. One of the smallest agencies in the federal government, but it has one of the largest budgets. So when they are supposedly coming into power and they can't understand how to teach young people to read, I think there's a problem. What are they doing? It's irrelevant to education.
Well, obviously, it's top of mind for a lot of folks. It's going to be really interesting, yet again, to see how all of this unfolds. Let's move on to tariffs, if you will. In this case, we now know that Mexico says it's walking toward a deal with the U.S. to avoid new tariffs. The president of Mexico confirming that negotiations are underway. This after President Trump announced 30% tariffs on Mexico in the European Union starting August 1st. The president saying, well, President Trump I'm making reference to, saying, well, Mexico has done a lot, but they have not done enough. Are you agreeing with President Trump?
Yeah, we have a lot of friends and clients that have businesses on both sides of the border, from vegetable facilities, agricultural facilities, tomatoes, strawberries on both sides of the border. And these people are struggling. They don't know what to do. They bought into the NAFTA idea, which was if you're in one place, you're in all places, and you could transport goods back and forth without extra tariffs. So I think they're trying to figure this out. A lot of businessmen and women are trying to figure out. I have an orchard on one side of the border, and I sell to the other side. The cheap or inexpensive labor in Mexico, the lack of child labor laws are concerning to the president and his administration. Look, we just saw this in California, where a farm was raided, and instead of understanding that there were 14 minors being forced to work child labor, slavery, if you will, the left in California just says, why are you raiding an illegal marijuana grow farm and deporting illegal immigrants? We have to decide, do we care about children or not? If we do, then factories in China, factories in other parts of the world, and certainly in Mexico need to be looked at, as well as the agricultural facilities. 30% tariff, That's about right. That's what the United States has been hit with for decades from lots of countries, including Canada, and Guy, including Mexico.
We'll end with this, Arif, and that is conspiracy theories. In this case, we know that at one point, President Trump urged supporters to see conspiracies everywhere. Now, well, that the focus is on Jeffrey Epstein, it's coming back to haunt him. Why is he avoiding any further discussion, if you will, and/or investigation surrounding Jeffrey Epstein?
Yeah, Guy, this is one of the most mysterious, I think, to most of the Trump supporters out there, and here's why. There are names. Now, there isn't a list. I think it's a bit of semantics. Pam Bondi saying there isn't a list. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way down. I don't think that exists, and I think that's their semantic games that they're playing. But there is a group of names. There are a group of people. There is funny business with this video you're showing, right, where there's 1 minute that disappears. Oh, don't worry about that. That happens every once in a while, and of course, it's just a glitch. Oh my gosh. At the time in which we think something happened to him, 1 minute. This is scary. So what do I think is going to happen? I think they're going to be forced to release some names. Many of these men and women on that list are innocent victims. Some of them may have just literally caught a ride on a plane. Some of them are President Trump's friends. Some are his allies. And maybe there's power in holding the list and having others know that you have that list. Maybe.
Yeah, yet again, very interesting. Arif Halaby, 870 The Answer, joining us right here on the Live Zone. Always good to see you, my friend. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Be well.
All right. Well, summer is in full swing, and surveys show there is a record number of people who plan to travel for summer vacations this year, with the majority either maintaining or increasing their travel frequency compared to last summer. Of course, should you opt to travel, maintaining your health, well, as many of you know, that is vital and that is key. That's where my next guest comes into play. I'm referring to Dr. Charles Ickley. He's a pioneering immunologist specializing in chronic inflammation in the body and how that ties into gut-brain connection, stress, and immune function. He now joins us right here on the Live Zone. Sir, thank you so much for coming on the show.
A great pleasure.
So I'm hoping you can provide us with some tips on immune-boosting secrets. Obviously, if you had the crystal ball in front of you, you probably wouldn't be standing in front of me nor talking with my audience. But you are well-versed within this whole realm, and it's something that so many folks are dealing with when they travel during this summer.
Absolutely. You can't underestimate the effect of stress on staying healthy normally, never mind just when you're traveling. Stress is the big killer. It causes so much damage, and it's all through essentially damage to the immune system. So chronic inflammation is induced by stress. Stress induces chronic inflammation. It's well, not a virtuous, but a rather nasty circle. And so anything that deals with stress or chronic inflammation is going to do you the world of good. Very important, because what happens to the brain affects the rest of the body, particularly the gut. You've heard of the gut-brain axis, and vice versa. So stress, got to deal with it.
You know what's really interesting? One of the things that you have pointed out is that, and I thought about it after you made mention of this in a previous article, and that is folks feel stressed prior to even getting on the plane. And I stood there and I said, you know what? That is so true. It's the rigmarole of going through, let's say, TSA, of making sure you have the kids ready to go and making sure you get there on time, something that so many of us deal with, especially during the summer.
And isn't that so? I mean, travel used to be such a joy. I think I've said it before. When I was a kid, we used to go to the airport with my dad just to watch the planes take off and land. Now it's a real rigmarole. And the secret of traveling is good preparation. It's like a good meal. The better you prepare yourself for the trip, the more comfortable you are when you do it, then the chances are that things will go better. But there's no accounting for bad luck or delays or weather or whatever. But it's important that you lead your life in such a way that you're ready for stress wherever it appears, not just when you travel. So you've got to look after yourself, you've got to eat well, you've got to look after your microbiome, and anything that helps you with stress is good. And that's where the work we've been doing with IMI and our mycobacteria, the loss of exposure to our natural environment now that we live in cities, we coop ourselves up in cigar tubes, which are really what aircraft are, and we're surrounded by people coughing and spluttering all over us. We go to new areas where there are new bacteria. If you're lucky and you just get traveler's diarrhea from the change of climate, well, you're probably lucky. But there are lots of big bad things out there ready to get you, and stress always makes it worse. So preparation is very important, and we can talk about that.
Well, sir, we'll end with this, and that is, at what point, with regard to the stress that perhaps I am feeling and or dealing with, should I pick up the phone and reach out to a health official and or a doctor?
Oh, I mean, I think when you can't cope anymore, it's very important that you do go out to a doctor, but keep away from doctors. They're dangerous. So, you know, take your things like your IMI. This is what we've been working on. We know from our cancer trials, one of the things that the patients who did, they had this bucket list, a lot of them, and they went off on holidays and things, and they would say, it was extraordinary. I didn't get an infection. I didn't get a cold. I didn't get diarrhea and vomiting. All the other people who were with me did. And so my resistance to the abnormal circumstances was much better. So that's why we think IMI is such a good thing to start with, and you need to get on with it at least a month beforehand so that you stabilize. And then there are a few other tricks which we can discuss.
Yet again, we'll have to leave it right there, sir. We truly appreciate your time and truly appreciate you joining us right here on the Live Zone. Very important tips, as many of us will go over the river and through the woods to Grandma's house this summer. Truly appreciate you coming on the show, sir.
A pleasure. Have a happy holiday and be safe out there.
You too, as well. All right, guys, you know the deal. If it's happening now, we're taking you there. In this case, lawmakers on Capitol Hill discussing the Senate's support on NATO. Let's take a listen in.
Let's say, discussion in the Senate when it comes to NATO. This is really important. What happened yesterday was important. First of all, that the US will now supply massively Ukraine with weapons out of the US, not just air defense, also missiles, also ammunition paid for by the Europeans. And secondly, that President Trump said, basically, if Russia is not serious about peace talks, within 50 days, he will slam secondary sanctions on countries like India, China and Brazil. So my encouragement to these three countries particularly is, if you live now in Beijing or in Delhi, or you are the president of Brazil, you might want to take a look into this, because this might hit you very hard. So please make the phone call to Vladimir Putin and tell him that he has to get serious about peace talks, because otherwise this will slam back on Brazil, on India and on China in a massive way. So I think it was a very smartly, wisely designed announcement yesterday by President Trump, but also the weapons I think is very important, and we will find the money in Europe to make sure that Ukraine has what it needs to be in the best possible position during these peace talks as soon as they start.
Questions? Secretary General, the President has said several times, including with yourself yesterday in the Oval Office, that the war in Ukraine is a Biden war, that it's a Democrat war. How do you respond to that kind of reference towards the war as something that's owned by one of the two parties rather than the current administration, which is continuing to
I don't think it's fair to ask the Secretary General about a fundamentally political question, so let me see if I can answer that. This is a war that started when Vladimir Putin lied by saying he was doing a military exercise around the borders, then lied again by saying that it was a special military operation. He is a liar and a murderer, and this is not a partisan war. This is a war against a totalitarian who has designs on other nations if he succeeds in Ukraine, not to mention, or should we mention, Moldova, the Balkans, and disrupting the peace that is actually that's growing in that area. This is not a political war. This is not a partisan war. This is a murderous decision by Vladimir Putin, and he needs to fail.
And could I maybe, in addition, say that President Trump providing the javelins in 2019 have been crucial when the war started. The full-scale attack started in February 2022. And him breaking the deadlock with Putin, starting the phone calls, this was crucial because only the American president could do this. So I really want to commend his leadership for doing that. And clearly, after the sixth phone call, he came to the conclusion the decisions yesterday were necessary to take the next step.
And I appreciate the president's action, too. Next question.
Mr. Secretary General, can you put some meat on the bones as far as the announcement yesterday? I think we know the Patriots are involved. What other missiles and weapon systems are involved? How would it function? What countries are involved?
Well, first of all, this is an ongoing process. So this is not just one package. So what NATO is good at is, together with Ukrainians, through our command in Wiesbaden, to design packages which are maximum useful for Ukraine when it comes to air defense, when it comes to ammunition, when it comes to missiles. So this is what we will now be working on with the US. Of course, in a way that the US still has enough stockpiles. For you to be able to defend yourselves, but also to massively make sure that Ukraine has what it needs. And this is also sending a strong signal to Moscow and to Vladimir Putin that he has got to take these peace talks seriously and get out this historian talking about history since 1250 and send a serious team to Istanbul.
Next question.
Are they under discussion?
Right here.
When will the first Patriot batteries arrive in Ukraine, and where are they coming from?
Yesterday we have seen Boris Pistorius here, the German defense minister, discussing this with Pete Hegseth. So they are working through all these details. Many Patriot systems have been delivered into Ukraine. So what we are now looking at is to make sure that Patriot systems directly from the US go to Ukraine. That's one way to do it, paid for by the Europeans, or that you get a front loading from European countries into Ukraine and then being backfilled by the US. So this is all worked through now. But again, the structures are established. The infrastructure, logistics is there, because this is not new. What is new is that yesterday President Trump announced that he wants the US stockpiles to open up in a way, of course, still Europeans paying and the US going forward being able to defend itself.
Andrew.
Mr. Secretary General, what is your message to senators today about the bipartisan Russia sanctions bill? Is it still necessary after the president's announcement yesterday?
Well, of course, the sanctions bill is politics here. I won't interfere. However, what the president did yesterday, I think, is in line with that sanctions bill, saying, listen, if you are the president of China or the prime minister of India or the president of Brazil, and you are still trading with the Russians and getting the oil and the gas in, and you sometimes even resell it for a higher price, know that if this guy in Moscow doesn't get serious about peace talks, I will slam secondary sanctions on you of 100%. So I'm sure they don't know yet what hit them. This will take some time to sink in, and I think you guys making this clear in the media, the senators maybe also discussing this with their counterparts in Brazil, India, China, will be very helpful to put maximum pressure on Russia in addition to the weapons delivery into Ukraine.
But look,
Senator Shaheen, and then we'll have one more.
We need to go forward with this Graham Blumenthal sanctions bill. It's got 85 bipartisan co-sponsors. It sends a very strong message. We need to be prepared if, in fact, we're going to give Russia 50 days, and I don't support that, because I think every day that Russia is able to continue this war means dead Ukrainians, it means more havoc in the country, and it means that the rest of the world is looking to see what the outcome is going to be.
Yeah, we'll take one more question, but first I should have started by thanking the president for taking the step that he did. The resupply is critically important. That should give Putin some pause. But the 50-day delay worries me, and that Putin would try to use the 50 days to win the war or to be better positioned to negotiate a peace agreement after having murdered and potentially collected more ground as a basis for negotiation. So we should look at the current state of Ukraine today and say, no matter what you do over the next 50 days, any of your gains are off the table, and we should pay special attention, even the attack overnight, we should pay special attention to the murderous behavior of this dictator as we go into any peace discussions if they occur 50 days from now. Last question. Ma'am.
Mr. Secretary, are long-range offensive missiles part of this under discussion, and how much do you think these...
Well, again, it is both defensive and offensive, so there's all kinds of weapons. But we have not discussed in detail yesterday with the President. This is really being worked through now by the Pentagon, by the Supreme Allied Commander in Europe, together with the Ukrainians, through our command in Wiesbaden. So that's happening. And maybe to this point of the 50 days, I understand what the senators are saying. You could also argue that the clock has started ticking yesterday. Because, yes, it takes 50 days, but at the same time, the clock started ticking yesterday. And That means that if Putin doesn't get serious, the way President Trump designed his 50 days, the clock starting ticking yesterday means that they will start putting pressure on the Russians, and I think that is extremely meaningful. So it won't take 50 days. This whole process will start basically yesterday, and hopefully lead to a positive result soonest.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so you have it. The NATO Secretary General, flanked by a number of U.S. senators, discussing all things surrounding the war between Russia and Ukraine. To put it bluntly, all mainly saying that it is something that needs to come to an end. It's a busy day on Capitol Hill, and in that case, we'll take to the House chambers, where a House Education and Workforce Committee hearing currently underway surrounding anti-Semitism in higher education. Let's take a listen in.
Themselves, every faculty, staff member, and student at the City University of New York with the utmost level of professionalism and to abide by all our policies. So our role is to make sure that we make those policies clear, that we make everybody understand that they have to abide by them, and if anybody breaks them, that we investigate and take the appropriate action. So that would be our role in making sure that the policies against any kind of discrimination, against any kind of harassment are not tolerated.
And that's fine, I understand that. What is the recourse for an individual faculty member if the representative body is a union that holds explicitly positions that run counter to their own interests? Can that person go around that exclusive representation? Would you support that?
Those individuals have the resources available to them privately. What we can do is make sure that the voice of the City University of New York, as I mentioned to you, no tolerance of anti-Semitism, North Star of safety, that everybody in the university understands that and is safe to be able to.
So would you negotiate a contract with an individual not in the union?
That is not something that we are allowed to do by law.
But would you support that? Because again, if the only representative body is one that is anti-Israel and this faculty member is from Israel, you're putting that person in a catch-22.
We are clear about what the positions of the university are. I have been very clear about my opposition to BDS, and I have traveled to Israel with our presidents and deans to show that it's not just a statement, that we are building bridges and connecting with universities and cultural organizations there. Our role is to make sure that we put together what the vision of the university is, and in labor has, they're independent, so that they don't speak for the
gentleman's time has expired. I now recognize the gentleman from Florida, Mr. Fine.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to be honest. I find the testimony today both disgusting, dishonest, and to be gaslighting, and I'm going to point it out here. We've heard that we unequivocally denounce anti-Semitism, unwavering support for our Jewish students. We have a zero-tolerance policy, and we will not put up with a call for violence. So let's explore that. I'd like to start with Dr. Rodriguez. Emmanuel Ness, the chair of your political science department, said he supports, quote, resistance by any means necessary, which includes violence. How can you say those statements that you support your Jewish students? Shut up and get out of here.
Gentleman will suspend. Gentleman will suspend.
Get out of here, you loser. Come on. By the way, to be clear, I hold you all responsible for this. It is the attitude that you have allowed on your college campuses that make people think that this is okay. That is why this happens, because you have someone like Emmanuel Ness that says resistance by any means necessary, and I assume this person still works at your school. Is that correct?
Microphone, please.
Any call for violence against Jewish members of our community is entirely unacceptable.
So why does this person still work there?
Any individual or faculty that has a complaint of breaking our rules, we will investigate them and take the appropriate disciplinary action if warranted.
Corinna Mullen at John Jay College said, after October 7th, the right of Palestinian armed resistance is just, and just last month was filmed chanting, up, up, up with freedom, down, down, down with Zionist scum. This is a professor that teaches your Jewish students. How can you say you have an unwavering zero tolerance policy when this person teaches at your school?
Again, I believe that that faculty member is no longer teaching with the university. Any call for violence, any call for supporting Hamas or terrorism is entirely unacceptable, and we made those statements several times.
At Berkeley, you're next. You created in the fall of 2024, you named Usama Makdizi the inaugural chair of a new endowed program in Palestinian Arab studies. On October 7th, Makdizi described the Hamas attack against Israel as, quote, resistance. Why would you give a job? See, I understand freedom of speech, but you get to decide who to hire. Why would you give a position to someone who said October 7th was justified? Why?
Usama Makdizi, Professor Makdizi, is a fine scholar. He was awarded that position from his colleagues based on academic standards.
Great. So on February 5th, 2024, this great academic, you're showing the problem, said, quote, I could have been one of those who broke through the siege on October 7th. This is what you think is good, and then we're surprised when people come in here and behave this way. I'm going to move on to Georgetown. You've got a campus in Qatar. I note when my colleague, Vice Chair Owens, said, what would happen with a KKK student on campus? You said, yes, but. That's the problem with all of this. We believe that we should deal with racism, and we should. And I did a lot in the Florida legislature to do with that. But there should not be a but after it when it comes to anti-Semites. So at your school in Qatar, you had a October 24th, 2023, an event titled Decolonization is Not Just a Theory. It was an exhibition of armed resistance in Africa in solidarity with Palestine. What does decolonization is not just a theory mean to you, and what does it mean to Georgetown?
I don't have knowledge of that exhibition. This was a student-led event, Congressman.
All right, so I have 90 seconds left, and I'm going to end with this. I have a 17-year-old who will be applying to school next year. He's in Washington, interning right now. And how in good conscience could you tell my son, who is Jewish, who's the reason I wear this kippah, how could you tell my son in good conscience that he would be safe at any of your schools? I'll give each of you, 20 seconds to try to answer that question.
I would deeply hope he would feel safe, and there's a reason for this at Georgetown. If Jewish students don't feel safe, if they have fear, if it's not just hurtful to them, it destroys our mission of interfaith dialogue.
They don't feel safe right now. Your turn.
I have spoken to many students. We have recruited actively in the Jewish community at CUNY. I've actually begun a program of extending a program that we have of recruiting in the high schools to the yeshivas, which is College Now. And again, we have listened. I have met with the students, gone to Hillel, listened to their concerns, and I've told them that we need to do better. We have made the changes, and we're showing the results. And listening and being committed to their safety is something that I wake up every day to do.
Yeah, I don't even need an answer from Berkeley, given the answer to that question about that professor. I would tell you this, the Jewish students on your campus, they do not feel safe today, and you all should be ashamed about that. And with that, I yield back.
I thank the gentleman, and I recognize the gentleman from Wisconsin, Mr. Grothman.
Thank you. First of all, just a quick general statement. This has been talked about, the third or fourth, fifth, whatever, committee hearing dealing with anti-Semitism on American campuses, the fact that in many campuses the Jewish students don't feel safe because of what's going on or not being done on the part of the administration. I'll point out, we could sit here for years, we're never going to have a committee hearing on anti-Semitism at the construction site. We're never going to have one anti-Semitism working in retail or working in manufacturing or in the military, or anti-Semitism in the retirement home. This is basically a university problem. And I think it became a problem because we have such a slanted overall view of the world in the university compared to the country as a whole. In an ideal world, I think you'd say that the university faculty represents a cross-section of the country. But we all know that's not true. If we talk to university professors, they'll tell you I was the only person out of 20 people here who voted for President Trump in my department or whatever. And, not every state keeps track of, which party you register in. But in universities that they do keep track, or people do studies, the universities are just overwhelmingly Democrat, which is a breeding ground for this anti-Semitism, because right now, the progressive wing of the Democrat Party, not the entire Democrat Party, but the progressive wing of the Democrat Party, which kind of drives the train over there, this anti-Israel feeling has become one of the things, along with global warming or racism or whatever, that becomes the norm. I'll ask a couple of you guys. I guess I'll start with Dr. Lyons. Do you feel your university ideologically across the board represents the country as a whole, or even California, as far in disciplines in which there's an ideological component? Law school, journalism school, political science. Does it bother you if it is, you know, the country as a whole right now is about 50-50. Does it bother you that you do not, that I assume, like most college campuses, your student body and your faculty, especially your faculty, don't even remotely represent America?
Ideological or political considerations are not conditions for employment at UC Berkeley. That's true.
No, the question is, if we were talking about affirmative action and you had 8,000 faculty and 5 were black, you would say that's a problem. Now, given that everybody brings a certain ideology to their job, particularly if you're teaching students, that is a problem if it doesn't represent America. I mean, I've been doing this for over 20 years, a politician back home and here. Again and again and again, I hear from college students who can't say what's on their mind in an essay or whatever because they know the teacher will give them a bad grade, or feel the teacher will give them a bad grade if you didn't give the progressive viewpoint of the world. Does this bother you, and do you think this is any of the problem? We'll ask you, Doctor.
Well, your statement about getting a bad grade because of
does it bother you? Does it bother you that your faculty does not remotely represent America? It is disproportionately not only Democrat, but progressive Democrat, which is where this idea that anti-Israel is the thing to come from. That's where it comes from, the progressive left. And way disproportionately, your faculty also comes from the progressive left. That's why these people get away with this and think it's normal.
What bothers me, Congressman, is anything that interrupts a dialogue across different intellectual positions.
So it doesn't bother you if 95% of your faculty in disciplines that have an ideological component are progressive Democrats?
Not if we have a thriving dialogue.
Okay, Mr. Rodriguez, what do you think about that?
Well, we have about 20,000 faculty members of the City University of New York, and they are a diverse group of.
Do they represent? Do they even remotely represent America as a whole?
I have no way of knowing that.
You must have idea when you walk around campus, and it was a week going to the last election where there are robust debates in which half the people were for Trump. Of course not. You're very, very skewed faculty, which is where this whole problem comes from. Do you acknowledge that your faculty does not ideologically
gentleman to finish the
America?
question as quickly as possible?
Again, we have a large number of faculty, and they represent diverse points of view, diverse political viewpoint all across the City University of New York.
If I ask you to name...
The gentleman's time has expired.
Thank you for being friendly.
He yields back. I now recognize the gentlelady from Minnesota, Ms. Omar.
Thank you, Chairman. It seems that the majority on this committee is eager to continue enabling this administration's repressive agenda. President Trump's attack on civil liberties and academic freedom are well documented. While Republicans continue their charade, new information about the Trump administration's policy of ideological deportations is coming to light. Last week, a senior ICE official testified in court that the agency is using the website Canary Mission to target students for deportation. Canary Mission is an anonymous site that blacklists and doxes individuals, charging them with anti-Semitism through little evidence or zero due process. It has long been criticized for its McCarthyism tactics that surveil students, repress speech, and instill a culture of fear across campuses. This is a site that reframes attending an anti-war protest as supporting pro-Hamas rally. It is not known who runs this site, but the agenda is clear: pro-Palestinian advocacy cannot be tolerated. And now this ideological agenda has a direct line to state power. Let's recall the high-profile case of student Romeza Ozturk, who was illegally detained by ICE and held for 6 weeks after writing an op-ed in support of Palestine. Curiously, that op-ed was published entirely a year before ICE chose to target her. But right before her abduction, Canary Mission posted a profile of her on its website accusing her of anti-Israel activism for writing the article. The same profile that ICE has now admitted to using in their internal memo. In a matter of weeks, she was picked up and her student status was terminated. Canary Mission loudly claimed credit for her detention, and it seems that credit was earned. This shameless authoritarian display of weaponizing a blacklist to crack down on political speech and detain academics is a page directly out of the McCarthy playbook. President Cropes, Chancellor Rodriguez, and Chancellor Lyon, this question is for the three of you. In the light of these escalations, with students facing detention, deportation in retaliation for their clearly protected speech, how are your campuses protecting students who are exercising their First Amendment rights?
We have free speech policies that are crystal clear. And in fact, we've clarified them over time to permit speech. We don't permit any violence with regard to the promotion of any particular viewpoint. And we try to act on violations of those policies quickly and fairly.
Thank you. Chancellor Rodriguez?
We make sure that all students are informed about our policies. We want students and all the members of our community to exercise the right to free speech, but they have to do it abiding by our rules and regulations. We're also investing, as I indicated earlier, in this constructive dialogue initiative. We want individuals to have the tools to have difficult conversations, to be able to have them, but to do them in a way that is respectful and civilized. And the best way also to empower the students is to provide them with information.
Chancellor Lyons?
We are supporting with education and training over 30 anti-bias initiatives to make sure that students can see into these issues more deeply. New curriculum, like what I mentioned earlier, a course like openness to opposing views, sharpening where the no tolerance lines are, which was very, very helpful, I believe, for the students to feel like they could safely express their free speech rights. And
at what stage, to the three of you again, will you intervene when students are being doxxed? We've seen fans in front of your campuses with students being doxxed.
Well, at Berkeley, the question there is if a doxing or other discrimination or harassment event would be reported, and we would follow it up with an investigation and make a decision.
And we have a webpage that we indicate to members of the community as a resource for the different things that can be done if someone is a subject of doxing.
Reports of doxing are acted on quite quickly and investigated.
Appreciate that. Thank you, and I yield back.
I thank the gentlelady. I now recognize the gentleman from North Carolina, Mr. Harris.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I thank all of you for your time and your patience and being in the panel. I appreciate your written testimonies and had an opportunity to review those as well as hear you today. Dr. Groves, in your testimony, you said, and I quote, "As a Jesuit university, we believe that working with someone with conflicting views to yours does not imply that you've been captured by their beliefs, end quote. And I agree with that statement. Unfortunately, it seems that some at Georgetown have been captured by the beliefs of some ideologies that are at odds with Georgetown's Catholic and Jesuit mission. In fact, it looks like you are celebrating ideas that are in direct opposition to those values. Earlier this year, you awarded a medal to Sheikha Moza bint Nasser, the mother of Qatar's Emir and chair of the Qatar Foundation. Yet months prior to giving this award, Sheikha Moza had posted on social media comments praising the October 7th attack on Israel. She praised the mastermind of the October 7th attack, Yahya Sinwar, saying, quote, "The name Yahya means the one who lives. They thought him dead, but he lives," end quote. And she added, apparently referring to Israel, quote, "He will live on, and they will be gone," end quote. I have to ask, why did you give a medal to someone who had made such anti-Semitic comments and represents a government that supports a U.S. designated terror organization like Hamas?
Well, thank you. Thank you for the question. The award to Sheikha Moza was given for her work, decades-long work, for educating, getting access to education to the poorest children around the world. At this point, there are 22 million children in the world that would not have had access to education without her work. It was for that work that we honored her.
Okay, and I hear that, but you also said at the award ceremony that the medal, quote, "is reserved for individuals whose contributions reflect the university's deepest commitments," end quote. Is the destruction of Israel something Georgetown would support?
The deepest commitments of Georgetown stem from our Jesuit heritage of educating youth around the world, and she amplified, she's a great example of that through her work over the decades.
But I'll repeat the question. Is the destruction of Israel something Georgetown would support?
I don't support that tweet. That tweet is not consistent with Georgetown policy. We honored her for her decades of work in access to education to the poorest children of the world.
Okay, if her remarks don't reflect the university's deepest commitments, would you consider revoking the medal?
We will not revoke the medal because the reason for the medal remains true. Her decades-long work in educating the poorest children of the world. 22 million children having education that they wouldn't have had without her work.
Chancellor Matos Rodriguez, a Jewish student withdrew from Brooklyn College after her professors repeatedly described Jews as white oppressors. They told her that Jews, therefore, had no right to speak about their history of oppression. Are Jews white oppressors?
I do not share that belief. I find the commentary entirely unacceptable, and I also find deeply disturbing that a student that was accepted to one of our schools felt that needed to do something like a transfer because of that.
DEI is fundamentally based on dividing people by the color of their skin and categorizing them on that basis as oppressor or oppressed. With that in mind, do you believe that DEI ideology makes campuses a safer place for Jewish people?
Diversity has been part of the City University of New York since its founding. We represent the diversity that we have all across our 5 boroughs. It's been one of the key elements of the DNA of CUNY since the founding of the Free Academy. So we are committed to that work of diversity, and it's been part of CUNY's work since its founding.
So are DEI programs an effective way, you would say, to address anti-Semitism?
We, in our work, when we work with students who are coming in and we teach them about the diversity of all our communities, we include anti-Semitism and the members of the Jewish community as part of that diversity effort.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
I thank the gentleman. I now recognize the gentleman from Indiana, Mr. Messmer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Meadows Rodriguez, following up on Ms. Stefanik's line of questioning from earlier, in 2021, you hired Salih Abdallah as CUNY's Chief Diversity Officer, despite her previous employment at the Council of American Islamic Relations, or CARE. The Director of CARE said after the October 7th attacks that he was happy to see people breaking the siege. Is CARE an anti-Semitic organization?
Again, the comment that you describe is entirely unacceptable and inappropriate. I don't know about their policy about being anti-Semitic or not. For the City University of New York, we do not tolerate anti-Semitism of any kind.
Okay, thank you. You previously stated that Abdallah does not handle cases directly pertaining to students and faculty, but she is the Chief Diversity Officer. Considering her background, was it appropriate to hire her to oversee CUNY's anti-discrimination efforts?
Again, that hire was not a direct hire that I made. Our commitment is that all our employees and faculty and staff abide by our policies and by our code of conduct, which would include no a tolerance for anti-Semitism. That's the conduct that we expect. And if any employee is seen to be breaking those rules, they'll be investigated and the appropriate disciplinary action will be taken.
Okay. You have said that Abdallah's work at CARE is consistent with CUNY's commitments to inclusion and respect. Do you remain confident that she can objectively investigate anti-Semitism at CUNY?
We have had no complaints with that employee. And again, as I said before, our commitment is if any member of the CUNY community, faculty, staff, or student violates our policies, violates our code of conduct, we will investigate. We've done it, and we've taken action.
Has she been removed from any anti-Semitism investigations at this point?
Again, there was one case in which, in the petition by an individual involved, suggested, and we accommodate that individual.
Okay. Chancellor, earlier you said that only 3 of the 7 students were disciplined at CUNY for their participation in an encampment. Why were only 3 disciplined, and what kind of discipline did they receive?
Again, I cannot speak to the specific cases of discipline. We work with the district attorney's office in that case. One of the things, and they were individuals that were engaged in breaking into the administrative building at City College. As I indicated before in my testimony, the experience of that encampment is one that we've taken to heart. We have 0 tolerance for encampments in CUNY right now, and we have doubled down in our efforts to make sure that our rules about time, place, and matter are clear to the students, and we've also invested heavily in additional security to be able to prevent any such situation occurring again.
Okay, thank you. Chancellor Lyons, Berkeley professor Usama Makdisi described Hamas's October 7th attack as resistance. He also reposted an article praising the determination and courage of Hamas terrorists, saying they heroically defended their homeland. Do these statements endorse violence against Jewish people?
I cannot speak to the specific elements of that. Different people have different views on that. Any call to violence or repeat of the horrific violence of October 7, in my perspective, is objectionable and unacceptable. So those that would view those remarks that way would have to take it the same way. They are unobjectionable and arguably a call to violence.
About a year after the October 7th attack, Berkeley rewarded him by naming him the inaugural chair of a new Palestinian studies program. This is one of the demands of the UC Berkeley's violent anti-Semitic encampment in April of 2024. Berkeley contributed $500,000 to this new program. I know you were not chancellor then when it was stood up, but in your view, was this decision to appease anti-Semitic violent student demonstrators wrong or right?
I can't speak to the context. I don't have the facts or the circumstances upon the making of that investment in that program. I will also say that a very similar investment was made in our Jewish studies program at the same time.
Okay, thank you. I yield back the rest of my time.
I thank the gentleman. I recognize the gentleman from Washington, Mr. Baumgartner.
Mr. Chair. Well, it very much pains me what has happened to higher education in America and its current status. I'm the son of a university professor. Actually, I spent a year in between WSU and Harvard teaching at the Catholic University of Mozambique, living and working with the Jesuits, so I have strong affinity for the Jesuits. But the radical leftward bent of America's higher education system has accelerated in the last 5 years has been extremely concerning. The diversity statements that you have, many college administrators have forced their faculty hires through to promote even more of a radical ideology, I think is very destructive. And I think what you're seeing from Congress these days is a representation that the American people have very much lost trust, or large segments of the American people have very much lost trust in higher education, and that trust needs to be restored. It is my belief that one of those ways that trust could be restored would be to fully account for any foreign influence or foreign spending on your college campuses. And Dr. Groves, I'd like to start with you. Does Georgetown fully account, and is Georgetown fully transparent with foreign money spent on your campus?
We certainly attempt to report all of our receipts from non-U.S. sources. One measure of that was with regard to Section 117 reporting, that there was an investigation of Georgetown along with other universities. And after months of reviewing the data we had submitted to the Department of Education, we received a letter commending us for our reporting. This is in 2021, 2022.
And can you commit right now to the American people that every dollar of foreign spending you will be transparent with?
I would be happy to commit to that.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Lyons, could you talk to us about foreign spending on University of Berkeley's campus? Do you think the American people have the right to know if foreign dollars are being spent on your campus?
We, like other universities, we're very, very careful about any foreign monies that come into the university. The university is funded across many, many different sources, and we are very, very careful to vet countries of concern as America's interests would require us to.
And you would commit to full transparency of foreign spending on your campus?
Well, as a public university, I am not ready to commit to that on the fly. There are different donors to the university who request anonymity.
Well, what do you think that says to the American people when you want to hide foreign influence on your college campus? Do you think that restores trust?
I can assure you, and what I'd be very, very happy to be very transparent about is exactly what is our process for vetting those things. We say no to a lot of foreign money, I promise you that.
Give me an example of foreign money you've said no to.
I'm not in a position to provide that information, but I'm very happy to be fully transparent.
But you could understand at a time when large segments of the American population has seen university campuses go ever farther left-wing and more radical, and there's a deep concern about foreign influence on college campuses, lack of ability for Americans, high school graduates to be able to get spots on college campuses. You could understand why it would be concerning to have a university president come before Congress and say, we don't want to be fully transparent about foreign influence.
I want to be fully transparent about the process by which we make sure that our process has integrity and that we are acting in America's best interests.
But why if a foreign government wants to put money onto your campus, wouldn't you be willing to tell lawmakers, the American people, about that?
Well, my understanding is that there are, in fact, currently a lot of disclosure requirements around that, although it's not an area of my specific expertise. I think we disclose an awful lot of that information to the government currently.
Okay, well, I'm just going to ask you one more time. Do you commit today to being fully transparent? Every dollar of foreign spending that takes place on your college campus, you would let the American people know about?
I am glad to bring that back with my team and consider it, but I'm not ready to make that commitment today.
I yield back, Mr. Chair.
I thank the gentleman. I recognize the gentlelady from Michigan for her 5 minutes of question, Ms. McLean.
Thank you, and thank you all for being here today. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for holding this hearing. I want to start with you, Dr. Lyons. You're the chancellor at the University of California, Berkeley, and you've been at the university for how many years?
I was an undergraduate there and came back on the faculty just over 30 years ago.
Okay, so you've been around, you've seen a lot of things. Do you believe that Jewish students feel safe on your campus?
I believe that most Jewish students feel safe on our campus.
You think there's any that don't?
Yes.
Yeah. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think there are Jewish people that don't feel safe in lots of parts.
I'm not talking about lots of parts. I'm talking about the university in which you are in charge of. Why do you think that is?
I think there is anti-Semitism in society, and we see...
I'm not talking about society, and I appreciate your diversion of the question. I'm talking about the university. So why do you think Jewish students don't feel safe at your university in which you're in charge of? Just curious.
Well, I think part of safety for most people is, some of it is physical, some of it is more emotional, and am I being harassed, but not necessarily being confronted with potential violence. So I've admitted already there is anti-Semitism on campus, and I think that
and I'm asking a simple question. Why do you think that is? And we've spent almost 30 seconds you avoiding the question.
Well, I do believe that public universities are reflections of society, and I believe that the anti-Semitism on society is present on our campus.
Do you believe you can influence the direction and how people feel on your university? Do you have any influence on that? Do you believe the actions that you or your staff or faculty members take have influence on that?
Yes.
I would agree. Are you committed to taking the action to making sure that all Jewish students, as well as all students, feel safe on your campus?
I am committing to striving to reach that goal, correct.
Wonderful. Okay. So just quickly, if a black student's home was vandalized with a noose and racist graffiti and a note was left saying that you're next, would you consider that an example of racism or discrimination?
On its face, personally, yes.
Wonderful. Well, in December of 2023, while you were a senior executive there, a Jewish student's home was robbed, and a note was left saying, F you. They wrote out the real word. Free Palestine, from the river to the sea. You think that's helpful for the Jewish students?
No.
No. What action did Berkeley take?
I believe that predated my time, but what I can say
It predated your time as chancellor, but you were there as a senior executive.
Well, I don't know this for a fact sitting here, but I am almost sure that that was reported and that was investigated, and
And what was the result?
It is hard.
I mean, it's great that we report it and we investigate it, but you notice the one thing that's missing is like the result. Okay, all right. In your testimony, you rightly acknowledged Hamas's invasion of Israel as a terrorist attack. Dr. Makdi, a professor of history at Berkeley University, on the other hand, said, I could have been one of those people who broke through on the siege on October 7th. What do you think he meant by that?
Well, I can't speak to...
I know, but you're a pretty intelligent man, or at least come off as a pretty intelligent man. What do you think he meant by that?
I'm not...
Put yourself in a Jewish student's,
Look, I think I want to separate the phrase from the person. If I heard some other person...
We can't separate the phrase from the person because of this professor who works at the university in which you are in charge of. So as much as we want to separate it and dance around it, let's not, because the person that works at your university said this. So I would like to know, because you're so educated, and you are, and you tout yourself at that, and you've earned that, what do you think the professor meant? Hello?
I believe it was a celebration of the terrorist attack on October 7th.
Right. Do you think, did you have any conversations with this professor?
I've had conversations with this professor, yes.
Yeah, and what was his response? And what were the conversations?
He's a fine scholar, and
That's a fine scholar that spews hate, and the people who pay, the students, don't feel safe. That's great, he's a fine scholar. I'm sure there's a lot of murderers in prison that are fine people too, fine scholars. But they do some pretty nefarious and heinous acts. So you want to explain what the conversation was?
Gentlelady's time has expired.
Saved by the bell. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I thank the gentlelady. Now I recognize the ranking member of the committee, Mr. Scott from Virginia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Nosenchuk, we've had a lot of comments entered into the record, complaints and comments with no indication of the resolution.
All right, guys, yet again, we will continue to monitor the House hearing on anti-Semitism in higher education. It is now 5 minutes past the top of the hour. You're watching the Fox 5 Live Zone. Earlier today, well, if you happen to be a Commanders fan, you're probably smiling from ear to ear. Why? Because we got word that no Washington player would ever, let me repeat that, ever wear number 81 again. That's because the Commanders are retiring Art Monk's number. Now, for those of you who don't know, Monk, the team's all-time leading receiver, has been a living embodiment of the franchise's greatest era. His 16-year career, 14 of which were with Washington, was filled with Super Bowl victories, Pro Bowls, and All-Pro selections. Now, the way he discovered it, quite unique. Shall I say Ricky Sanders, Doug Williams, and this guy, my favorite Commander, Washington player ever, Gary Clark, actually had the honor of telling none other than Art Monk that, guess what, your number is now retired. Gary Clark joins us right here on the Live Zone, along with John Booty, who lined up against Art Monk many a times back in the day. Guys, thank you so much for coming on the show, and welcome.
Glad to be here. Good to be here.
I got to tell you, Gary, I had the opportunity to see you over the weekend, and you are not only, in my opinion, the best to ever do it for the Commanders, Washington, I should say, but you also give back in a major way, and I'm going to touch on that in just a second. First and foremost, the mere fact that you had the honor of literally walking up to that door, knocking on the door, and telling your buddy, hey, guess what? Your number will never be worn again. Can you describe that?
First of all, just the shock on his face for him seeing me, like he did not expect to be seeing me knocking at his door. And the face, and you can see that he was just trying to figure out, like, why are you here, G. Clark? The look on his face was just, oh my, it was priceless. But being able to bestow that honor upon, and in my opinion, one of the best receivers in Redskins history, along with Charlie Taylor and Bobby Mitchell. Of course, I think those three guys just are the epitome when it comes to class in the burgundy and gold, and having Art Monk, the all-time leading receiver, and one of my good friends, along with Ricky Sanders, of course, being able to share that moment with him and be the person to tell him that number 81 will no longer be worn by anybody else other than Art Monk is spectacular.
Gary, can you talk about what it means to yet again be in that position? We were just watching the B-roll, and we could see behind, let's say, Mr. Monk, but I could see your face, and I mean, it's just lit up. You're smiling from ear to ear, yet again, to be able to tell your friend it's never going to be worn again. I would imagine there were plenty of smiles on the football field back in the day, and I'm talking about all the many accolades that you all achieved. How was this a little bit different, if at all?
It was different in that it was so special. You know, there are always special moments. Super Bowls, special moments. Championship games, special moment. This, Art getting inducted in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, special moment. This is one other special moment that, you know, I think all players, whoever played, no matter what the sport is, they would all like to see their jersey retired. They just would. I mean, because it shows that the type of person that you are, the type of player that you are, and the epitome of a man that you were and are. And Art Monk, he's the definition of humility. He's a definition of, like, stubborn in the best way. Stubborn and like he's going to stay at it until it gets done. And to be able to share that with him and have Ricky Sanders there as well, because our bond is something that will never be broken. We love each other, we respect each other, and we're always going to be there for one another. And I was reading this to Art, you know, how we felt about him. I kind of told him that Ricky Sanders actually wrote it.
Wow.
So he didn't see Ricky. So when he sees Ricky, he's surprised again, you know, because he should have known that we're always going to show up for each other. And we're definitely going to show up with the leader of the posse, which is Art Monk, of course.
Yeah. Yet again, we're also joined by John Booty, who had the honor of lining up against him back in the day. I don't know if that's an honor there, John. I'm sure it was quite a challenge.
I can tell you there was a lot of fear, a lot against Art Monk and the rest of the posse, and I just left Art a message saying just that, and he responded, said, well, it was fun times back then. And Guy, you just mentioned about smiles on the Commanders and Washington Redskins faces back then, but a lot of sad smiles on smiles on our faces, these guys, because they do have the championship rings, and doggone it, I'm still upset about that.
Yeah. Gary, obviously the game has changed throughout the years, but you know, I have always and forever will be a true Washington fan, and I would say that, with all due respect, you all are the OGs. I mean, it gets no better than that heyday back then, watching you all on my TV as you all did your thing, and to now know that, yet again, still honored, recognized, beloved, and respected. What does that mean to you?
I mean, it shares, I mean, it just really shows to me that people truly respected what we went out to try to do, what we did, what we accomplished, and that they know that we put our heart into playing for the Burgundy and Gold, that they know how much we love them as fans. I mean, you kind of just sometimes, you know, you get teary-eyed when you think about what the Burgundy and Gold has meant to all of us, quite honestly. You know, to this day, I still are able to take care of my families because I play for the Burgundy and Gold. A lot of things that I do is NFL experience based, and so I will always be appreciative to the league itself. I'll always be appreciative to the Burgundy and Gold because that's where I made my mark at. But Art Monk and Ricky Sanders, they're my brothers from another mother, 100%. Those are guys that we've yelled at each other, we've cried with each other, we've done everything that you can do as a group, but most importantly, we was there for each other every step of the way. And I was so good being able to have myself and Ricky there to share this moment with Art Monk, who is, you know, the leader of the posse.
Wow. Truly amazing, truly special, and you made mention of them being your brothers forever. Well, I would argue if you're a true Washington fan, the three of you all will forever be our heroes. Congratulations, and what an honor for you to be there along with Art Monk. We've been speaking with the legend, Gary Clark, along with John Booty, both of which kind enough to join us right here on the Live Zone. Thank you so much, guys. Truly appreciate this.
Thank you. Thank you, Guy.
Thank you, guys.
All right, guys. We'll take a quick break. How cool is that? We'll be right back. All right, guys, back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. So, it's the summertime. Probably out, let's say, enjoying the summer. Why not, right? Well, that means you have to have money to spend. But perhaps you say, you know what? Let's just use the good old credit card. Uh-oh. Trouble could be looming, and that's exactly what's happening for a number of folks. WalletHub now out with a study surrounding the cities with the most credit card delinquencies. And if it comes to WalletHub, we know we're going to bring in this guy, our guy, Chip Lupo, back right here on the Live Zone. Always good to see you, Chip. Welcome back to the show.
My pleasure, Guy. Good to be with you.
All right, so I got to be honest, full disclosure here. I don't have the study in front of me. But what I can tell you is that when it comes to credit card delinquencies, it's really an issue, and it's something that plagues so many folks. We know that, well, recently, the amount that folks owe with regard to the credit card continues to skyrocket, and I would assume that when it comes to good old Washington, D.C., well, we too have an issue.
Right. Washington, D.C. is right up there, and we'll get to that in a second. But it's part of an overall nationwide problem when it comes to credit card debt. Now, when we're talking about delinquency, we're just talking about a missed payment, whether it's because of finances or sometimes it's an oversight. So delinquencies can be quickly remedied. You can make contact with your creditor and make arrangements to stay current. Now, that's a world of different from default that's when the real trouble starts. Now, as far as Washington, D.C. goes, 8 highest delinquency out of the 100 largest cities. Now, what's particularly troubling about D.C. is that the share of the average number of credit card trade lines or accounts that were delinquent just in the first quarter, 20% of those. Now, Guy, if you've known anyone who's been in any type of trouble with credit cards or debt, you know that it's not limited to one account in most cases. If you're delinquent on one credit card, chances are you're delinquent on the other because you burn up the credit on one and then you max out the next one in a sort of a snowball effect. And that's a drop, it's a change in the average number from this time a year ago of almost 12%.
Yeah. Yet again, I am not surprised, Chip. I got to be honest with you. I mean, I think about so many folks that just take out their credit card and just swipe away as if they will never have to pay. And obviously, that's not the case. And so it's somewhat concerning that D.C., this is where we don't want to be in the top 10. And that is, D.C. happens to be in the top 10 with regard to credit card delinquencies. Before we move on, what happened to be the #1 city?
The #1 city was Fremont, California. It's just a suburb nestled between San Francisco and Oakland. They had a dramatic increase of almost 30% from a year ago. All right. And again, it's just this cycle of, especially in this inflationary economy where people are relying more and more on their credit cards, not just for entertainment type purchases, but for everyday living expenses because the cost of everything has gone up and inflation is not keeping up with wages. So people are putting everything on their credit cards. They're not reading the fine print, obviously, or they would know that they'll be paying a 22 to 23% interest on that balance.
Yeah. All right. Well, when it comes to credit cards, I can tell you one thing that I've tried to use my credit card for before and it didn't work, and that is to pay my rent. And in this case, Chip, we're talking about the best and worst cities for renting. Yet again, I don't have the study in front of me, but I'm willing to bet, because I know how much I pay, that D.C. happens to be near the top of the list. Am I correct?
Well, out of 182 cities, Washington, D.C. is 136th overall. And what we did is we measured those across 2 dimensions, rental marketability and affordability, and quality of life. Now, one thing I noticed that Washington, D.C. does have going for it is that it is it's sublet friendly, which is odd because you don't find a lot of landlords that are willing to accommodate sublets. So D.C. is very sublet friendly, and there's also a cap on security deposits. A lot of landlords will nickel and dime you to death with security deposits. D.C. has a cap on how much landlords are willing to charge. But of course, as you guessed, it is expensive, and you don't get a lot of bang for your buck. It's 174th in the average home square footage at a little over 1,100 square feet.
Yeah, well, I can tell you, Chip, when it comes to, well, I guess I'm not going to talk about my place, but you're not getting your bang for your buck. Let's just say that, especially when you live inside D.C. proper. So yet again, somewhat perplexing if you would like to rent. Chip, what happened to be the #1 city, the best city to rent in?
The #1 city to rent in, it was Overland Park, Kansas, which is a suburb of Kansas City. It's affordable. And there's a good quality of life. There's good schools, and there's a pretty low crime rate. And behind them were 3 Arizona cities: Scottsdale, Chandler, and Gilbert, all Phoenix suburbs, all good quality of life, relatively affordable. Lots of rental properties available, and a lot of square footage to take advantage of.
Well, I can tell you one thing: good for them, but you won't see me moving there. I pretty much love Washington, D.C.
A little too dry and hot for you, huh?
Chip Lupo with all things surrounding WalletHub joining us right here on the Live Zone. Always good to see you, my friend. Thank you so much for being patient.
Anytime, Guy. Talk again
guys.
soon.
We'll take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
our star along here. We're going to Pittsburgh. We're going to be touting about, actually, going to be numbers like nobody's ever heard before. It's mostly to do with AI. We have tremendous investments being made, literally trillions of dollars of investments being made in our country on AI, artificial intelligence. I don't know if the word artificial is a good word, but that's the word. That's what they've chosen. So I think we're going to have a very successful trip. We had a good call with the Texas congressman this morning, as you probably heard, and that went very well. And you have any questions? Yeah, go.
Mr. President, Mr. President, Mr. President, your reaction to the latest numbers from the Labor Department saying that inflation rose slightly last month.
Very slight. Essentially, they were exactly as anticipated. Very low inflation. So what you should do is lower the rate. The Fed should lower the rate immediately.
Is it because of tariffs? Did tariffs?
We had a big win with the Supreme Court on the Department of Education. We want, as you know, we want to bring education back to the states, take the federal government out of it. A little tiny bit of supervision, but very little, almost nothing. Like to make sure they speak English. That's about all we need.
Mr. President, what would you tell a student who might be in a struggling, failing school right now? What would you tell that?
Well, we have school choice, and we're getting school choice approved all over the country. We just got it done in Texas, and school choice is the answer. Yes.
Yes, Mr. President.
You've given Russia 50 days. What happens now? Do you talk to Vladimir Putin?
Well, at the end of 50 days, if we don't have a deal, it's going to be too bad.
Should Zelensky get more aggressive?
Yeah, the tariffs are going to go on, and other sanctions go on.
Should Zelensky target Moscow? Should Zelensky target Moscow, sir? Should Zelensky target Moscow or deeper into Russia?
No, he shouldn't target Moscow.
Is that why you gave him more weapons, though?
No, we're not looking to do that.
Mr. President, why are you giving Mr. Putin 50 additional days to prosecute his war against?
Oh, I don't think 50 days is very long, and it could be sooner than that. I don't think 50 days is very long.
Mr. President,
you should have asked that same question to Biden. Why did he get us into this war? You should ask that question. Yeah, and what did he tell you? Why did he get us into this war? You know why he got us in? Because he's a dummy, that's why, and you don't cover it right. But you should be asking that question to Biden. Why did he get us into this war? Because he's incompetent. It would have never happened if I were president. So we made a deal with Indonesia. I spoke to their really great president, very popular, very strong, smart, and we made the deal. We have full access to Indonesia, everything. As you know, Indonesia is very strong on copper. But we have full access to everything. We will pay no tariffs. So they are giving us access into Indonesia, which we never had. That's probably the biggest part of the deal. And the other part is they are going to pay 19%, and we are going to pay nothing. I think it's a good deal for both parties. But we will have full access into Indonesia. And we have a couple of those deals that are going to be announced. India basically is working along that same line. We're going to have access into India. And you have to understand, we had no access into any of these countries. Our people couldn't go in. And now we're getting access because of what we're doing with the tariffs. So they're paying 19%, and we are not paying anything. And they're going to give us full access into Indonesia. Now, Indonesia has some great product, and they also have some very valuable earths and various other materials. One of the things, as you know, they're known for is very high quality copper, which we'll be using.
Mr. President, on Texas, sir. Do you believe your tariffs might have led for inflation to increase last month? Do you think they had any role?
Well, we had very little inflation. I don't know. Who do you work for?
USA Today.
What?
USA Today.
Oh, well, they wrote me a beautiful article the other day, so I can't get angry at you. USA Today just wrote a very good article about me. What's that all about? So I can't get angry at you.
On Texas, sir.
No, there was very little inflation, as you know. The numbers were very good, very much inside the margin. So we've had no inflation. All we have is we're making a fortune. We are taking in hundreds of billions of dollars. You saw we had a surplus of $25 billion last month. which we haven't had in many, many years.
Mr. President,
Sir, on Texas.
Mr. President.
We are doing because I'm able to do it. Nobody else would be able to do it. We have tariffs going on because we want tariffs and we want the money coming into the United States. But more important than the money, there's two aspects to tariff. There's the money, which comes in. The other aspect is that rather than paying the tariffs, the country or the company will build in the United States, make their product in the United States, and that creates jobs. And I would say of the two, probably the more important to me is that, yeah.
Sir, on Texas.
Are you on Ukraine's side now?
No, I'm on nobody's side. I'm on no.
Why?
I want to, you know what the side I'm on? Humanity's side. I want to stop the killing of thousands of people a week. I want to stop the killing. I want the killing to stop in the Ukraine-Russia war. That's the side I'm on.
Mr. President, your daughter-in-law said that there should be transparency in the Epstein case. Do you agree with her, sir?
The Attorney General's handled that very well. She's really done a very good job. And I think that when you look at it, you'll understand that. I would like to see that also. But I think the Attorney General, the credibility is very important. And you want credible evidence for something like that. And I think the Attorney General's handled it very well.
How many more seats?
The Attorney General briefed you on the DOJ and FBI review, the findings of that review. The Attorney General briefed you on
On
that.
what? On the
DOJ and FBI
on what?
review.
On what subject?
Epstein. On
Okay.
Epstein, of the review of the files. Attorney General Pam Bondi.
A very, very quick briefing.
Did she tell you, what did she tell you about the review? And specifically, did she tell you at all that your name appeared in the file?
No, she's given us just a very quick briefing, and in terms of the credibility of the different things that they've seen. And I would say that, you know, these files were made up by Comey, they were made up by Obama, they were made up by the Biden, we went through years of that with the Russia hoax, with all of the different things that we had to go through. We've gone through years of it, but she's handled it very well. And it's going to be up to her. Whatever she thinks is credible, she should release. Yeah.
Sir, on Texas, how many more seats do you want the Republicans to draw? for
5.
House? And then what if California, New York, Illinois, and other blue states
well,
decide
that's
to do
okay
this?
too, but 5. I think we get 5. And there could be some other states. We're going to get another 3 or 4 or 5 in addition. Texas would be the biggest one, and
So
that'll be 5.
Are you calling then for a complete redrawing of the congressional map ahead of next year?
Just a very simple redrawing. We pick up 5 seats.
And
But we have a couple of other states where we'll pick up seats also.
What's your tariff rate for the EU?
Well, when he was in my office. I told him he's doing a very bad job. He's way late. That's why I call him too late. Jerome Powell is too late. He's way late. Interest rates should be coming down. We have a very, very successful country. We should have the lowest interest rate anywhere in the world, and we don't. Jerome Powell has done a terrible job, and frankly, I don't think he could do a worse job. He's called everything wrong. So they had a report come out the other day, 71 different economists, and me. You know who was right? Me.
Mr. President.
Did you know that? I was right. You must be kidding.
Mr. President, what are your thoughts on Andrew
That's a funny
Cuomo?
one coming. You had to waste the question like No, we are talking to the EU, and we're making progress. But look, you know, we already have a deal with the EU. It's called the letter that was sent out. I think it was 30%. That's the EU. But we, at the same time, we are talking.
Andrew Cuomo.
Go ahead.
Well, Mr. President, your reaction to Andrew Cuomo staying in the New York City mayor's race. Andrew Cuomo staying in the New York City mayor's race.
I think he should stay. I think he has a shot.
Would you prefer him over...
Well, I don't want to say. You know, I'm a Republican. He's a Democrat or an independent. No, I think Andrew would have a good shot of winning. He's got to run a tough campaign. He's, he's running against the communists. I would think that he would have a good shot of winning.
Tell us about your trip to Scotland, sir. What are you going to do on your trip to Scotland?
We're going to be meeting with the British Prime Minister, very respected, and we are going to have a meeting with him probably in Aberdeen, and we're going to do a lot of different things, and we're going to also refine the trade deal that we've made. So we'll be meeting mostly with the, at probably one of my properties, or maybe not, depending on what happens, but we'll be in Aberdeen in Scotland, meeting with the Prime Minister.
Mr. President, what's your preferred? Mr. President, do you have a message for the EU if they retaliate against tariffs?
Well, I don't know how they can retaliate. You know, they've made a lot of money. They've treated us very badly, but now they're treating us very nicely. And I think we'll end up, I think everybody's going to be happy with the EU.
What's your preferred target rate? Mr. President. Sir, any plans to meet with Pope Leo in the near future, sir?
Not a plan. I would do it. I have a lot of respect. I really like his brother. His brother is a major, serious Trumper. You know that. He's MAGA all the way. I like the Pope's brother, and I think I'd like the Pope. But the Pope's brother lives in Florida. I met him, and he is MAGA. He's got MAGA signs all over the house. He likes Trump, and I like him.
Mr. President, what's the latest on Iran?
How about you?
Iran.
Well, we're going to see what happens with President Putin. So far, I've been very disappointed with President Putin. I've solved a lot of wars in the last 3 months, but I haven't gotten this one yet. This is a Biden war. It's not a Trump war. I'm here to try and get us out of that mess.
Mr. President.
Any messages for what? Yeah, go ahead. Do I have a what? For the people of Brazil? Are you from Brazil? He's going to trial now, right? Yeah. When is that trial starting? When is the trial for Bolsonaro starting? When is it? How is it going? But they haven't found him guilty, have they? But have they found him guilty? No.
On Iran.
President Bolsonaro is a good man. I've gotten to know a lot of prime ministers and presidents and kings and queens. And I know him, and I'm pretty good at this. President Bolsonaro is not a dishonest man. He loves the people of Brazil. He fought hard for the people of Brazil. He negotiated trade deals against me for the people of Brazil, and he was very tough. And he was tough because he wanted to do a good deal for his country. He was not a dishonest man. And I believe it's a witch hunt, and it shouldn't be happening. And it's not that I know him look, he's not like a friend of mine. He's somebody that I know. And I know him as a representative of millions of people, Brazilians. They're great people. And he loves the country, and he fought hard for those people, and they want to put him in jail. And I think that's a witch hunt, and I think it's very unfortunate. And nobody's happy with what Brazil is doing, because Bolsonaro was a respected president. Very respected.
Mr. President.
We want Adam Schiff brought to justice.
I would love to see him brought to justice. I'll tell you what, I think Adam Schiff is one of the lowest of the low. I would love to see him brought to justice. He is a dishonest, crooked guy. I don't know about the individual charge, if that even happens. But Adam Schiff is a serious lowlife.
And tomorrow morning here in Washington, AOC is hosting
Adam Schiff.
for breakfast.
Adam Schiff, I believe.
Sorry.
I'd love to be. I'd really love to go. I mean, I look forward to meeting them both. I know them both very well through what I read and through what I see. Look, he's a communist. I don't think our country is ready for a communist, but we're going to see. And I don't think that race is over yet either. You do have a couple of people running against, and it'll be an interesting thing. Things are coming out about him which aren't good. And, AOC, look, I think she's very nice, but she's very low IQ. And we really don't need low IQ. Between her and Crockett, we're going to give them both an IQ test to see who comes out best. Now, I took my test. I took a real test at Walter Reed Medical Center, and I aced it. I got every one of all those questions right. Now it's time for them to take a test. Anyway, have a good time.
All right, there you have it. President Trump speaking from the White House prior to heading to Joint Base Andrews, where he boarded Air Force One and is now on his way to Pittsburgh to take part in an energy and innovation event, yet again set to get underway later this afternoon. Speaking of getting underway later this afternoon, come tonight, the MLB All-Star Game will take place at Truist Park in Cumberland, Georgia, with the American League looking to continue its dominance over the National League. Now, the American League has won 10 out of the last 11 games, not including the 2020 season, in which the game was canceled due to the pandemic. The National League won the game in 2023, but the American League, well, let's just say they got back at it. The question is, what will happen tonight? You can watch that game right here on Fox 5. Joining us to discuss what's to be expected is, hey, our guy, Zach Parnas, award-winning sports anchor and MMA announcer, joining us right here on the Live Zone. Good to see you, Zach. Thank you so much for being patient, and welcome to the show.
Guy, an absolute pleasure. I don't know how I can follow President Trump in quite the same way, but, the All-Star Game is pretty fun to talk about, so I'll give him my best go,
All right, so what's to be expected? In this case, we're talking about the All-Star Game in a major way. It's happening in Atlanta. There's no better place to play ball, if you will, and that's exactly what will take place later on this evening.
Yeah, yes, indeed. This is going to be a great clash, right? It is the Summer Classic, just a historic moment in American history. That's what the All-Star Game has been year over year, unless you're the National League, in which case it's been very tough. As you've described a little bit earlier, they've had a very difficult run of getting into this game and actually getting it done with just one win in the last decade plus. I think their fervor is going to turn around tonight. It will start to swing in their favor now. I love this lineup for them between Ohtani, Ronald Acuna. We're going to see some pitchers deeper into the night, like Jacob Mizorowski, who's an extremely young and talented 23-year-old who I think is just going to light it up out there. So for that reason, I think the National League is going to be able to get this done tonight and maybe gives a few Nationals fans some things to cheer for. We can expect to see Mackenzie Gore and James Wood out there repping our DC crew this evening. I think it's going to be an awesome game, hopefully extremely close. I know that we've had some back and forths in the last few years, but I think the National League gets away with this one in a 4-2 fashion.
Yeah, Zach, let's take a step back in time. In this case, we're going to talk about the home run derby that took place last night, where new rules happen to be in place. And, well, unfortunately for the Nats fans, Mr. James Wood, when it comes to swinging that bat, didn't really do as much as we thought.
Yeah, but honestly, though, Guy, I feel like James Wood still had a nice appearance. You got to remember, 22 years young, those are some bright lights down there in Atlanta. I mean, we are talking about the spectacle of Major League Baseball's All-Star Week, maybe even more so than the game. The Derby is always extremely well watched. There's a lot of very talented power hitters out there. Now, granted, James was amongst a field in which only one other player had been there before in terms of Matt Olson, him being the lone player, but Wood, overall, I felt like open with a lot of pop, nice fire, but just couldn't quite get over the hump. There were a lot of big dingers and big shots being hit later on by O'Neal Cruz and obviously Derby winner Cal Raleigh as well. But I think Wood puts on a solid performance, and I think he'll make a return appearance in years to come. We got to remember, this young man still just trying to find his footing. There's going to be a day when the Washington Nationals sign him to an absolute record-breaking contract. I have a feeling of it. But until then, James gets to at least revel in the fact that he participated in this historic event, and now he gets to go on to whatever is next.
Yeah, nothing but up for this guy. And I want to talk about the rules that I made mention of earlier, and that is what we saw last night during the home run derby. I got to tell you, Zach, I mean, for a guy that doesn't really watch baseball perhaps as much as you do, and I would think a lot of folks were saying, what's going on here? How does this work? So do tell for those of us that are still trying to figure it all out.
Yeah, so the three knockout rounds, the Derby has had all kinds of changes in the last decade or so, but the three-round precipice, one starting out with all 8 competitors, then we chop things down to 4, then we go into a head-to-head matchup, and then in that final is where things got a little bit wonky, right? I mean, we're talking about all sorts of extra outs, the ability to earn those things. Those are some things that fans may have had a bit of protest towards, but I think will become part of the norm for the Derby going forward. As far as the outs and the number of pitches that are thrown to, I think that those kinds of things are rules that need to be examined, Guy, just from a perspective of, some guys like to take a few to be able to see things, also kind of helps reset their power meter, so to speak, or just give them an extra second to catch their breath and belt one out. But yeah, I was certainly a little bit thrown by some of these, and I think that it's normal for fans to have this sort of adverse reaction.
Yeah, it's sort of cool. I mean, obviously, as the game advances and morphs into something new, it's good to bear witness to it and get a chance to watch it. Yet again, the MLB All-Star Game takes place tonight right here on Fox 5. I got about 2 minutes left, Zach, and I want you to touch on this. And earlier today, I had the honor of chit-chatting with none other than Gary Clark. Obviously, he happened to be one of the Washington greats that got a chance to knock on Mr. Art Monk's door and say, you know what, that number 81, it will be retired. No one will ever wear it today. I'm curious, your thoughts on the Commanders, or the Washington football team, if you will, retiring number 81.
My goodness. I mean, I feel like it's long overdue, right, Guy? I mean, this is somebody who has just been a storied person within this program, 14 seasons. I was shocked to find out that he was the first ever wide receiver to have 100 receptions in a single season, connecting with Joe Theismann back in 1984. I mean, unbelievable stuff. That's like the baseline that we use for great wide receivers nowadays, is can they get over that triple-digit amount? And he was the first ever to do so. But yeah, 3 Super Bowl wins with the Washington Redskins / Commanders. I mean, this is just a guy who's been absolutely storied in this franchise. And I think Josh Harris has done the right move in making sure that no other Commander will wear this number again. I mean, he just had so much finesse to his game. He was so talented. The actual presentation with Doug Williams and Gary Clark and others, it had to be such an incredible moment for number 81 to be able to relive those moments. Something that I really love about Art Monk, though, Guy, is just when you talk to teammates, et cetera, or hear anecdotes of him in the past, he just put in that relentless work day over day, considered himself above no other man on the roster, and really didn't want any of the recognition, the awards, the accolades. He was comfortable in who he was and the effort that he gave, and that's why he was such a tremendous football player, and is now going to have his number immortalized forever and never worn again, at least at FedEx Field, and maybe again at RFK Stadium or whatever it ends up getting called down the line.
Yeah, truly a Washington great. And so are you, my friend. Zach, folks that want to get a chance to follow you and find out more information about you, how can one go about to do so?
Yeah, absolutely. Instagram's the primary place where I do it. At @ZParnes, we talking sports. I do a little bit of food content as well, so nice little bonus stuff in there for your feed. So appreciate that, Guy. Always happy to come here and chat DC sports.
Good stuff. Zach, truly appreciate you joining us right here on the Live Zone. We'll take a quick break and we'll be right back. All right, guys, back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. If you can only see what happens behind the scenes, I guarantee you that's a show in itself. Tony
It
P
should be
now joining
called
us.
Behind the Scenes, BTS. I would love that.
Right here on the Live Zone. Good to see you, sir,
Good to
and
be
welcome back to the East Coast, my friend.
It's been a while, first of all, since the East Coast, and also since I've been on the show, so thank you for having me, my friend. We've been trying to work it out. I'm always late with my texts, but finally, I got it on time this time.
It is an honor to have you here.
It's an honor to be here,
and
man.
yet again, an honor to have you back here on the East Coast. You
Good
were just
to
in
be
LA
here.
doing
I
all
was.
things special.
Yeah, so actually doing like some networking stuff for TV and podcast stuff. Had some business meetings.
Okay.
And absolutely loved it. Actually, I dropped by Fox 11 on Bundy
Nice.
Drive. It's pretty cool. They get a nice studio. I think ours is nicer though, to be honest with you. But I'm sorry, Fox 11, but I love you guys. But it was a great trip. Just great people out there. I mean, it's almost like the dial of life is turned back a couple of decibels out there.
Yeah.
Even the meetings, you don't wear suits out there. Everybody kind of just wears like a collared shirt and jeans. And I'm like, all right, a little bit of a different vibe for me, but I absolutely loved it. And someday, look, you never know, man. I could see myself out there.
Excuse me, I definitely seen you in LA or La La Land, as I like to call it.
Oh, yes. Hollywood Walk of Fame, you could spend the whole week there. Truly the best. Oh, my God.
You can tell he really liked it, guys. All right, we call this our Tuesday Talkers. Some of the stories that you folks at home are talking about as well. We're going to kick it off with something really interesting, Tony P. Apparently, a lot of single ladies in New York, they're saying, you know what, we're having trouble finding a guy to date. Gone are the days of hopping on a dating app and or sliding in someone's DMs. In this case, a lot of professional women are stealing men's lunches. Once they steal their salad, let's say, they'll then look at their name on the salad and then reach out to them via LinkedIn. They'll then say, hey, you know what? I somewhat by accident took your salad. Can I buy you lunch?
That is brilliant. First of all, I knew LinkedIn was going to be a dating app. I said this a year ago. People thought I was nuts, okay? You know what? I feel vindicated. You can all apologize to me now. But I think this is actually really creative.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what? It's plausible deniability. You can't exactly prove that you stole it. And you can say, hey, boop, it just happened. Here's the salad. It's kind of like what's that movie with Sydney Sweeney? When what's it?
I know what you're talking about.
Like in the coffee shop. I think it's the name of the
Yep.
movie. I can't believe it. But they're in the coffee shop and like he kind of like fake buys her a coffee, so so that I guess you can't go to the bathroom in the Starbucks unless you buy something. So Glenn Powell buys her something so you can basically like get her some food. It's pretty funny. But
When
that's
I
what it reminds me
initially
of.
heard this, I immediately thought of desperation. And then to your point, I said, you know what? This is somewhat ingenious. Perhaps maybe even the fellas can do something like this.
Well, that was kind of where I'm going with it. I mean, again, of course, be respectful, of course,
Yeah.
and don't be obvious about stealing someone's food. But I think you could definitely do that with different things like lunch or, again, just kind of, if anything can get you a personal connection, that's what I care about. Is nobody's actually going out anymore.
Yeah,
We're
that is
seeing
so
the rates
true.
drop like from 2003 to now. It's like 30% less of going out by people in this generation or like this age group. So we have to find some way to get people out there. If it's through kind of faking a stealing situation, faking a crime, I don't know. Maybe it's not the worst thing to do.
I absolutely love this. Okay, we have time for one more, and I want to jump into this.
Desperate
in this
times,
case,
desperate measures, by the way. I had to add that in there.
Speaking of dating and single, folks, how about single Disney fans are getting their own app to hook up? Can you believe it? Oh boy! I was trying to sound like Mickey Mouse there in this case.
Hold on.
It's called Single Riders, and it's somewhat similar to Disney World's Single Rider line, which allows unaccompanied party guests to mingle and, let's say, fill empty seats, effectively cutting down on the wait time. It's pretty much the same thing. Look, if you love Disney, you like hanging out there, you like all things Mickey Mouse, Minnie Mouse, they're saying, hey, we can make a love connection here.
And I think Disney's actually very wholesome. I think, I have some Mickey Mouse dolls at my house, just being honest. My grandmother gave them to me. I keep them. I think it's a good sense of connection. You love kind of that inner child in you. You love the wholesomeness of it. I think it could be a good connection.
Yeah.
Again, I'm going to do the Goofy voice. Oh, hello. Hello, Mickey. I can't do it. No, but like, like that would be a great date night. Impressions. Now, talk about something I can bring love in the air.
Yeah.
Doing old Disney impressions.
I absolutely love this. To your point,
I'm
it is
nuts today.
wholesome. Yeah.
It is. It is. I mean, you know what, though? I think it's creative. People were trying to find ways to connect. This is a thing that people love. And again, it's Disney is a thing that can bring everybody together.
Yeah.
and you can find like, you know, part of a person's soul through that, I think.
No, I'm with you. Speaking of connecting in a major way, you do that with your audience and with me as well. When you're cooking at home, it is the absolute coolest. It's funny, man. I find myself sitting there watching, okay, how is he going to prepare that? And you say you're the worst, but you exude so much confidence.
Do I?
Oh, yes, definitely.
I mean, it's funny, so I changed the segment to be more of like a cooking therapy session. Because everybody does cooking content, and they're all better than me at it, right? So I'm like, you know what? Let's do something that's a little bit different. So I do the meal, but I'm mostly talking about like a thing I'm working through mentally or spiritually that week. So, and I love it. Like cooking is therapy for a lot of people, so I really enjoy it.
Myself included.
Oh,
Guys,
totally.
he's a great follow. If you haven't already done
thank
so,
you.
make sure you do so. How can folks follow you?
So I'm on Instagram _Tony P in DC. Same thing on TikTok _Tony P in DC. And also YouTube, we're getting some new stuff on there. Longer form, @It's Tony P.
Good stuff.
I'm shocked they still had it there.
You're doing the take today, right?
I am, and I'm doing Lion Lunch in a couple minutes.
Oh, gosh.
Can't wait.
You're a busy guy.
I'm ready to rock and roll today. Jet lagged and ready. I have more energy than I do on an 8-hour sleep day.
This guy is coming in hot.
I'm
Tony
ready.
P joining us right here for our Tuesday Talkers
Thank
right here on
you.
the live.
Thank you,
Always
my
good
friend.
to see
You're
you,
the
my friend.
absolute best. This man, he's the best fall, not me.
We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. All right, guys, back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. On behalf of my producer, Emmy, I'm Guy Lambert. Thank you so much for watching. Back here tomorrow at 12 o'clock. Tell a friend, bring a friend, and yes, we'll do it all over again. The Take coming up next, right here on Fox 5.